Are you overwhelmed by the challenge of personalizing communication for thousands of students? That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. From nudging prospective students to guiding those already on their journey, AI assistants don't just automate, they write, build, and optimize every step of your digital campaigns. Discover how at element451.com/AI team.
Welcome to Mastering the Next, a cutting-edge podcast that explores the future of graduate, online, and non-traditional education through the lens of AI and technology. I'm your host, Dr. Ray Lutsky, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Element 451. Join me for discussions with some of the thought leaders shaping the future of graduate enrollment management through technology. Mastering the Next is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that helps institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Arizona State University is annually ranked the nation's most innovative university by U.S. News & World Report. From their approach to accessible online learning to their partnerships with industry, ASU has a proven track record of staying at the leading edge of higher ed trends. Earlier this year, the university announced a unique educational partnership with OpenAI. And here to tell us more about this exciting development is Lev Gonick, ASU's Enterprise Chief Information Officer. Thanks for joining the podcast, Lev.
Thanks for having me, Ray.
So what's next for the partnership between Arizona State University and OpenAI?
Well, we've just begun, even though the truth is, as you noted, back on January the 18th, we made news by basically sharing with the education community and actually the whole AI community that education and ASU were interested in not being laggards, not interested in being fast followers, not even interested in being a quick follower. We wanted to be pioneers. We wanted to actually help shape the ways in which this very disruptive technology could be utilized and harnessed for the mission that all universities have, which is really in the success of their students. And in particular at ASU, that's chiseled into our charter that we are absolutely and fundamentally committed to the success of our students. And we do it in a way quite different than most other public universities in that we actually are committed to an inclusive admissions policy, and we measure our success by actually how those students succeed.
I should admit that I'm already a huge fan and a 2021 graduate of the Cronkite School Master's Program in Digital Audience Strategy. So I'm well aware of your commitment to student success and really the model you have. I know that there are a lot of different projects currently underway driven by this partnership, AI-related projects. How do you envision these further shaping the university in line with its mission?
Sure. Well, again, back in January when we launched the partnership, we did a number of things. One, we wanted to help OpenAI actually figure out how to go to market in our sector. We were able to capture the imagination of obviously the OpenAI community, but many, many other parts of the generative AI first movers that are out there. And so, obviously OpenAI, we've worked with Google, we've worked with Amazon, we've worked with Adobe, all around the idea of, how do we engage? And so then to be responsive to your question, what we began doing is what we basically have called challenge grants. We actually turned the tables. We basically said, if we want to know how to actually help change the trajectory and the outcomes of the ways in which generative AI could be used at the university, let's go ask the university community about the ways in which they thought they could actually have impact. And impact has been the signature of so many things that we've done at ASU, including our efforts and aspirations here in the AI world. And so that those challenge grants have led to 564 proposals from our faculty, our staff, and our students on ways in which they believe that they can leverage generative AI, and whether, again, that is OpenAI's version of that flavor or literally 41 other large language models that we support in the environment here to actually have impact on student success. We now have over 250 of those projects in flight as we speak. And that means that we've gone from kind of the early pioneering group into really, a mode where there is significant demand. In fact, the demand at the campus community in a fun way, not in a fun way, in a way that's a bit of a double-edged sword, Ray, actually exceeds our capacity at this very moment to actually support them. So not only do we offer them licenses, but we actually offer wraparound services. At ASU, we've created a team that is cross-disciplinary that's called the AI Acceleration Team. And it's part of our secret sauce here. Because we have a dedicated team of technologists and UI, UX experts and designers and instructional specialists, all working to help the campus, including the recipients of the Challenge Award grants. And that is keeping us extremely busy. And at the same time, the backlog or the pipeline of demand is significantly growing. And the great news is we are now developing some of our own tools to allow the campus to actually solve for themselves. And so instead of going out fishing for everybody, which is the way we started, we're actually teaching people how to fish right now. And we've got two very important tools. We actually have got something called My AI Builder, which is actually allowing the campus to not have to actually understand how the mechanics under the hood of this very, very significantly complicated car, which is called generative AI, works. We've actually simplified all of the back end. And so really what they're doing is making choices around the pedagogy or choices around the kinds of research activities they want to work on, and literally being able to load up their data, and it's put inside the garden wall of ASU's ecosystem so that, in fact, it doesn't bleed out into the commercial or consumer experience that's there. That's a hugely important activity. And then we actually have a ASU GPT, which again is a curated library already of many of the things that are not scrapable from the public web that actually then can be utilized for, again, instructional use or for research use, things like, financial aid workflows, and which are really a service orientation to the ways in which we use generative AI.
I'd love to double click on that for a second, because it's a really important point. When I speak with other public college presidents, boards of trustees, they struggle a bit with understanding how to integrate AI into a personalized learning experience, into student success, student support, how to use AI effectively to improve retention rates. And you've seen this large influx of requests, of ideas. Are there themes emerging that you think are just sort of best practices that are the locus of activities around, well, as you mentioned, the idea of instructional support or financial aid? Are there areas like that that you think are just sort of going to become natural extensions of how AI is used to support students?
Well, the answer to the question is it depends on our timeline. In other words, there's short-term opportunities, there's mid-range, and there are long-term. There's a sprint, there's a series of sprints, and then there's a marathon. And we at ASU, I think, understand the need to actually be operating in all three of those kinds of races all at once. And so, we're very much focused in on trying to keep an eye on the prize. Again, that prize is the student success prize, and that really, the overall vision, and the vision that we actually have exemplars of, we have positive proof points of, are the way to actually create personalized, customized, and sometimes avatar-based generative AI experiences. In other words, when you come to learn, Ray, you learn chemistry in a very different way than I learn chemistry, because in fact, you're an expert. You're a master learner already, to sort of play on the words of this podcast. I'm not. I barely actually made it out of high school with chemistry. and yet we get both put into sort of the standard pipeline for how to actually study chemistry, at the university. And the goal here should be that actually we can create the same opportunity, which is the time available. That's the opportunity. But you should be able to use the foundational materials that are available to go explore infinite number of possibilities. Well, I need to master the foundational materials in a way that, again, I can have my own personalized, uh, again, tutor, if you will, and you can have yours, and yet they're not the same, because your learning journey is going to be different than mine. And here at ASU, not only have we built that technology, we've built it in multimodal ways, which is to say, linguistically, you can be studying it in English. But if your native language is not English, and let's say it's Hindi or Arabic or Spanish, you can be studying it in English, but actually interacting with your avatar in your home language. You can also be doing it not only if you're not interested, if you can do it with text, the way we think of generative AI today. You can also use speech. You can talk to the AI, but you can now also we now have again examples of avatars. In other words, you can have your own personalized avatar that can be working with you along this personalized journey. So that's the big goal, the big aspirations. And along that journey, we're breaking it down, and we're breaking it down into sprints. So, just two quick examples. I mean, one is I mentioned financial aid. And for every student and every family that goes to a university, financial aid is the first gateway into the experience. And it basically, to use a technical term, sucks. It's a very complicated, convoluted environment in which there is the fear of the unknown. What awards am I going to get? When will I get those awards? Will I have them in time to actually pay for my first month and last month of rent, or the learning materials that I need to buy? I mean, there's high anxiety that goes on there. And at ASU with 181,000 students, that impact at the top of the funnel when financial aid gets released in early August before the beginning of the semester. It's incredibly complicated to service all of those folks in a way that's high touch. And so we are using AI to actually create a concierge experience so that our attendants are the people who actually help to serve these families and these students about questions that they have around financial aid. They don't actually have to be master experts when it comes to all things financial aid. They are very well trained. They are actually professionals, but there is such complexity. So we've actually built them a concierge dashboard, which allows them to use generative AI to interact with all of the knowledge base articles and all of the updates that are out there to provide a better service on time, hopefully without as much delay, hopefully very accurate in terms of the information so that families and students can get on their way. So that's like one example. And then in the classroom experience, while we're building prototypes of these highly aspirational products, we're also, our faculty are innovating and delivering today products. So, language is a significant, international languages is a significant requirement at the school. And so we have faculty that have built basically language buddies, which allow, for infinitely patient Gen AI tools that can actually spend time in speech using multimodal technologies in Gen AI to allow students to, whether it's German or other languages, be able to actually practice, get feedback on their language at all hours of the day for as long as they want, with as many practices as they might want to do. And the same is true for, I mean, just think about the humanities. We have a great philosophy professor who's actually created with his students a GBT for the philosophers that they are studying. So what better way to learn than to actually do two things? One is learn about the philosopher that you're studying, which is very important, teaching them, which is important, but now actually creating a GPT so that in fact others can learn, others can build on that curated library experience using all the generative tools that are out there. And there are dozens of examples that are out there, and maybe it will be of interest to your viewers and listeners that ASU has produced a 70-page compendium of all of the sort of first fruits that we've realized, and perhaps there'll be a way for you to share that with your viewers and listeners.
Absolutely. We'll share that in the show notes for this episode. And I think it'd be very helpful for institutions that are wrestling with some of these ideas. And perhaps, ASU is very fortunate to have a world-class, innovative faculty. And faculty governance is so important to launching initiatives like this. It sounds like there's a lot of faculty buy-in and a lot of great ideas. But I also talk with institutions where faculty are very cagey about AI. And in fact, I'm hearing of instances where faculty are saying you're not allowed to use artificial intelligence for this course. And for me, that's like telling students they can't use a calculator. It's interesting to me that you have this level of buy-in. So I'm curious what the role of the faculty has been in shaping the overall initiatives. There's a lot of great ideas coming to the
Yeah.
classroom, but what has been the role of faculty governance in sort of moving in this direction?
I think all of us have perhaps discounted the impact on faculty engagement that came out of COVID. There was a moment in time in which the general sort of narrative was, faculty are resistant to using technology, which has actually not been the case at ASU and probably not at a lot of other universities. But that is kind of the narrative. But at COVID, we all came together. It became a team sport. Faculty stepped up in huge ways. And again, not because there weren't critics and cynics and challenges in actually using the technology. It was far from perfect, to be sure. Well, when you fast forward, from March of 21 to today, in sorry, from March 22 to today, I know we certainly have a very similar situation. When we actually began working with OpenAI, the question they had is, well, how are faculty actually going to respond to, react to? And I was very bullish. I said, I think our faculty are likely to step up. And so we set up a series of opportunities with our provost office to engage the faculty in the design exercise. What would be helpful to faculty at this moment in time? And it turned out, not surprisingly, that the answers were very diverse from, I don't know, but I am curious. Well, let's just be clear. There were some faculty who simply weren't interested. But from those who basically at least had curiosity, there was from sort of, I'm interested, but I don't know much. I'm curious, all the way to, I'm actually very proficient in a lot of the machine learning techniques and other sort of underlying technique that is out there, but I don't know anything about the pedagogy and I don't know how to actually apply that in the environment. So we actually created 8 modules for faculty, and we thought, maybe 50 to 100 faculty might actually sort of step up because, in fact, they were ready to get going and experimenting in their classes. And at the beginning of the fall semester of this year, so we're now talking, we're well on the second side now of the semester. So all the way back, in mid-August, we had at ASU over 2,400 faculty who had taken this sequence or the appropriate sequence of these modules with no compensation, with no incentives other than their commitment and their passion. And now we have a community of practice, which numbers more than 1,000 of these faculty and instructional designers as well. And just last week, the provost office and enterprise technology hosted just one of again, a regular set of sessions, and nearly 200 faculty were at that gathering. Again, this is like in the peer-to-peer sharing of, again, essentially the best practices that faculty are sharing with one another. And so, again, there's plenty of room. After all, we have the privilege of being at universities for skeptics and cynics and ethicists who are calling, who are making sure that we understand that there are risks in everything that we do. And at the same time, I know I am a firm believer that the best way to predict the future is to start.
The return on investment for students of studying for any discipline and learning about AI is palpable. And ASU has as I mentioned in the opening, a track record of working with companies to help upskill, reskill, advance, recruit, retain employees at scale in some pretty large ways. How do you see the work you're doing with OpenAI playing into that workforce education piece? And I mean, clearly there's a benefit to anyone learning about artificial intelligence, but in particular for those companies that are looking to sponsor learning for their employees. I imagine this is going to become a bigger area of interest as everyone looks to integrate AI into what they're doing.
Yeah, again, sort of in the DNA, Ray, of ASU is a commitment to partnership because it's our thesis that actually none of us on our own can actually achieve our aspirational goals. And so whether it's working with the University Innovation Alliance, which is an alliance of universities committed to student success, and the way I've described them to you, or whether it is working with vendor partners. Historically, ASU has worked with probably over 300 vendor partners. In fact, we host a national gathering with over 7,500, technology companies, partners, other universities, founders of companies at an annual gathering, which is called the ASU GSV Summit in San Diego each spring. So we believe in the power of partnership. And so, the work with OpenAI right now is largely around shaping the go-to-market strategy. And indeed, we know from, again, studying the logs, it's a technical work here, that actually well over 3/4 of our students are using OpenAI in their daily work. The question is how to leverage that. In other words, this is not. There's no real reason for debate. Again, I'm happy to have the debate, but there's no real reason for the debate because we have a commitment to actually meeting our students where they are and then guiding them in their learning journey. And so that working with OpenAI, the challenge is how do you actually frame a set of offerings that creates a compelling reason to move from the consumer experience to one that is, in fact, supporting the enterprise being the university and all of its aspirations, whether you're a matriculating degree seeking student or whether you're one of literally millions of people who around the world who are leveraging ASU's learning content for their learning journeys that are out there. And so we've actually helped to try to develop that by focusing in on very important activities. One is, of course, making sure that that work is being done in what I call this garden wall, because we believe and take seriously the commitment to student privacy. That means that students, when they're doing queries or when they're sharing or when they're asking for feedback, including some very intimate feedback, that should not be something that's training the commercial consumer focused experience, or at least not without it being explicit that that is what's going on. So we've created, a garden wall environment, which really makes sure that none of the interactions that are going on, whether it's from faculty to students, or students to students, or students to faculty, or researchers with one another, none of that is bleeding out into the ingesting of that content for the training of the commercial models that are out there. We also want to make sure that our intellectual property, the actual stuff that we produce here as one of the great research universities in this country, isn't unknowingly actually being dumped into the public domain through the ways in which those might be shared. And then there are very important security, broadly speaking, security concerns, which again, I think all universities need to be very careful and thought about. And again, we can call that AI governance if we want, but those are important. And so there are enterprise reasons to do it. And then we also want to make sure that students, when they use the library of ASU GPTs that have been curated by their faculty or by the grad students or by the students themselves, as I gave you an example in the philosophy department, that actually those are the intellectual property of ASU. And so if ASU chooses to share them, whether it's an open license or by licensing in other ways, that content, then in fact that is a part of the way in which in the AI era, we can actually make sure of the fidelity, the quality, and the brand of ASU gets maintained, and actually, hopefully, not only maintained but actually amplified in this environment.
Looking ahead, and given all of those complexities, as other institutions move in these directions, what advice would you give them on implementing AI at scale within a large, complex institution? Maybe not the scale of ASU, but certainly at scale. What advice would you give about those future directions?
Well, I've offered, and so I'll offer the refrain here to repeat myself. Uh, Again, I think that the most important thing to do here, um, the best way indeed to predict the future is to start it, and not to basically become paralyzed through the analysis of whether or not we're overstretching in the short term, or not actually and under anticipating the long-term impact here. There's no way at this moment in time to predict whether any of these first movers that are out there are going to win. There's only one way for universities to engage, and that's, again, to engage by starting right now. It is to work on developing tools internally if you have the capacity to do so. And if you are reliant, or if you're fully reliant on the vendor community, to realize that these are very, very early days, to make no long-term commitments at this point in time, to make sure that, again, all of the intellectual property is in fact completely retrievable and in fact verifiably no longer in the environments, should those companies in one way, shape, or form no longer be of service to the institution that is going forward. And again, I think the very important activity here is to realize that among all collections of humans, there are pioneers, there are early adopters, there are quick followers, and there are obviously going to be late followers and laggards that are out there. It is not in the university's interest to wait for the last set of individuals, humans, given just the way we react to change as humans. We do not need to wait for that last set to say let's go before we go. And I do think that we have lots of good experience from other disruptive moments in the life of the university at the intersection of technology and innovation, to realize that there are ways of supporting those early champions. We at ASU are working at program scale as much as we possibly can, because we believe that it'll be at program scale. It's not, there will be, honestly, Ray, in the not so distant future. It took us 30 years to get here with the internet, where we are at higher education, where we have an environment in which we've decomposed the elements of the university so they're no longer fixed to seat time, no longer fixed to brick and mortar. And so we've decomposed it so that you can learn online, you can learn in hybrid forms, you can learn at any hour of the day, you can learn anywhere around the world. All of those are decompositions in which the internet basically allowed us to reduce the cost of the delivery of information. That is the fundamental insight of the internet. The AI era that we're entering into is a completely different calculation. The calculation for the AI era is actually reducing the cost of expertise. Let that sink in. Reducing the cost of expertise. And so for universities thinking about it, it will not take 30 years for this to actually have impact. We will probably see significant, I would say, literally, reaching an inflection point in the next decade, in which, again, this inflection on reducing the cost of expertise will lead us to situations in which we have faculty as experts, master learners as part of the equation, and we will all be surrounded by digital employees, digital instructors, digital tutors, digital AIs, thousands of them around our learning journey, around our research journey. And that will be, again, a future which we should look forward to because it's both exciting. I think it's going to lead to breakthrough discovery. We at ASU are betting that that future is going to lead us to student success.
It's certainly a bright future. Lev Gonick, Enterprise Chief Information Officer at Arizona State University. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights with us.
Thanks, Ray.
Here's my take. Arizona State University is a world-class educational institution that has been named many, many times the most innovative university in the United States by U.S. News & World Report. You can look at everything they're doing, from building enterprises to their online education to their workforce development and partnerships with programs like Starbucks and Uber. They're doing a lot of different things that schools need to try. They're also embracing a model of education that is very much the mega model, where universities are taking over large needs in the workforce and large spaces geographically to fill the gap that are being left by regional public institutions and even small private institutions that are closing because they're not offering the right kinds of programs. Well, the partnership with OpenAI is a signal that this is something innovative that other universities need to be doing. While every school understands that AI is important, not all of them are embracing AI in the classroom, AI for their students, AI for their staff, and understanding its value in the entire university ecosystem. And that's what Arizona State is doing, and it's worth taking a look at. The Mastering the Next podcast is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Cadieux, J.C. Bonilla, Mallory Wilsey, Brendan Henkel, Brian Gross, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.